And today we have the wonderful Ester Wikström from London. Hi, Ester. How you doing?
Hello. Hi. I am good. Yes, worked the entire day, and now I'm finally here. How are you?
I'm very well. We're both in London, so we're both we've had a day already. We're in the evening, so it's all good.
I know. I think we're even both southeast London.
We're actually flagging it. Yeah, we're flagging out shit for it.
Yeah, representing.
I love that. Brilliant. And amazing, obviously a massive welcome to everyone in our chat as well. So if it's your first time that you've joined Adobe Live, a massive welcome. I can see everyone's kind of coming in quite thick and fast. We've got Richard, we've got Katrina, Gareth says hi, Chris, and obviously Voodoo Val keeping everything safe in the moderator in the chat as well. So a massive welcome. It's just a few things to say. If you're viewing on YouTube, pop over onto Behance, and that way I can read your comments directly, and I can share them with Ester as well. So yeah, put in the chat where you're coming from, where you're from London, if you're from anywhere else in the world, put it in there and I can share them directly with Ester as you get into her creative space. So just a few things to kick off as well. So you can check out our first week of excuse me, new illustrator David Kellens with Julia Malaska every weekday from 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. So don't miss that out. But yeah, Ester, we're here for you today, and we're here to sort of see your creative challenge. Would you like to give us an insight into what you'll be working on today and who you are as an individual?
Yes, of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Ester, and I live in London, but as you might hear on my dialect, I am actually Swedish. I moved here 2.5 years ago, and I think I said I'm a communication designer. But so I started off as a graphic designer, but then turned into communication. And what that really is just a fancy way of saying that I do brand identities, I do advertisements and campaigns as well. And today we are actually going to look at one of the scariest things to do, which is to brand yourself. I'm going to brand a fictional character, someone called Morgan Wilson. And but I reckon before I do that, I should, just give my credentials and what I've done.
Yeah, so it'd be good to know.
Yeah, wicked. So if you can see, I reckon you can see my website. Perfect. So this is what I look like and my branding. So these are some projects I've made recently. So I was lucky enough to win a D&AD pencil and then do AR stuff. Awesome. I've done brand identities. Thank you. It was very nerve-wracking. And then also being shown in exhibitions for the Secret 7 exhibition. And then what isn't shown on the portfolio, I also have just Instagram, my playground, where I play around, show, stuff that didn't get picked, scrapped creative roots, or just me playing around really, learning new techniques. So that's,
Amazing.
The quick rundown. I reckon we should get into the fun bits.
We should. I was gonna say, just to flag as well, we've got some amazing comments already, Ester, in the chat. So everyone's kind of loving your designs and what you're sort of showing. And there's just been quite a nice talk on our accents as well. Someone's flagged Julia, so about how our accents are quite nice. So
that is lovely. Thank you so much, Julia. And with that said as well, if I talk too fast or if I say anything a bit odd, please feel free to ask me to repeat in the chat, and I will, jugadly explain what I'm trying to say.
Exactly. We're in a safe space. It's all good, right? It's all like creative juices flowing. And but
friends.
let's have a little insight into what you'll be working on in today. So then we're all in the loop.
Yeah, so this is just like me opening up, and as you can see, I already have some information, because when you are doing a brand for yourself, you should treat it as almost as if you're working against a client. You have a purpose, why you're doing it, who you are. So let's get to know our person. So the person we're going to design for today is called Morgan Wilson. They are from tiny town in England, but actually live in London, not southeast, but somewhere. And they work as a graphic designer. Very nice name. On the little, I don't really know any small places in England, hence tiny town.
I get that.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then, you know, what is the purpose? Why is this person needing a brand? It's because they want to get hired by an agency. And, you know, also, you know, creating their own brand as a designer is to showcase their own work, you know, platform going. And then, you know, the likes. This is a very hipster person, you know, they like having fun, they like drinking their coffee, and their dog Zigzag.
And they've got the beards. Is the beard there as well? Not so much.
That's the thing. They might actually have a beard. I haven't decided really. Yeah, no, it's just they sent me an email or fake email just asking for help. And then what is perhaps more important rather than the likes is the personality. So they are playful, social, very loud, almost obnoxiously loud, but they also know when to hold back.
Cool. Good balance.
So starting, I might have picked that from myself. I don't really know. But just looking at this information, already, you know, you get ideas. It's something playful going on. They are social. They know how to talk to people and are quite proud to be loud. And, you know, suddenly you start thinking about typefaces. So when I get a brief, you know, even before I finish the brief, and I think you might be the same and other designers, you get ideas just reading through it. So, you know, first off, I just looked at, okay, what could playful and loud mean? It's, you know, is a condensed all caps typeface? It's a handwritten element to show, you know, that social aspect, or, you know, and then also it's playful, but also knows when to hold back. It's a bit sophisticated and professional. Is it something to do with stickers? Is it, you know, or rather than a condensed all caps, is it a display that's quite thick and, you know, takes up a lot of space? Just looking really all around the place. Yeah.
Brilliant.
And then, thank you. And, you know, also when you are working on a personal brand, especially like I've done it 3 times, a thing that at least I think a lot of designers tend to forget is it's actually not necessarily about your personal brand. It's what you show within the personal brand that will get you hired. I don't know if you agree with that, Kieran.
I guess it's more like that, having that human element to it, right? It's one thing to have the skills as a designer, but then kind of putting through that kind of just, you know, who you are as an individual. I think once the two kind of come through, it just works in sync with one another, right? So, and like for you, I'm already getting good vibes already. So like, I feel like for yourself, and again, for anyone kind of tuning in as well, obviously you're kind of looking into Ester's, you know, like thought process, but that will hopefully come through, you know, as we go through our session. But it's all about good vibes, right? And then like good energy, which kind of comes through with good design skills too.
Yeah. And I think, you know, that is one of the most important bits, especially, you know, as a designer just entering the industry or someone who's looking to get a new job. Remember, by the end of the day, we're all humans, and your portfolio can look smashing, but if you don't connect, you don't connect. So it's that social aspect of it as well. And then, you know, just looking other things and keeping in mind, you know, who are we actually speaking to? We are speaking to agencies, we aren't speaking to non-designers as a freelancer. We are speaking to people who know design and, you know, knows how to see a typo or something like that.
We're all guilty of that, right? Occasionally, like a little, you know, widow or excuse me, type that sort of slits through the cracks, doesn't it?
Yeah. We are like, I can promise you, we are probably going to see that today.
It's all good.
It was a running gag throughout uni that I never did a design brief without any type of typo or anything. I am a designer and not a copywriter.
I can relate. I can totally relate. And I feel like, again, for those kind of tuning, you know, if you're from a creative background or you're even just starting out, there's these kind of like little, I guess, kind of quirks that you find yourself the more you get into our industry, that, you know, you might just be able to focus on one thing really well. And then you start thinking, oh, if it's copy, you might have to collaborate, maybe work with other designers or other things that kind of feed into your work process as well. I can see as well from the chat, we've got some amazing people. I mean, a lot of people from different rounds of the world. So we've got Ben from South Africa, Brooklyn, Rich is from Brooklyn, Gareth from Scotland, Marie from Vienna. Wow. Nicolette, I should say, from Netherlands. That's a bit of a tongue twister there. And yeah, it's all good. Got a lot of people in there, which is great. So, and they've all come to see you do some amazing design work, Ester. So it's all good.
Perfect. That is welcome, everyone. That is amazing to hear. So the brief, and as soon as I have some ideas, some things to keep in mind, I just go online and look for inspiration. Really, what have other people done? Is this something we can get inspired by? And this is wicked. It's colorful. It's playful. Is very.
I'm loving
close.
that. That's cool. Yeah.
This is no. I'm not. Is this no? So this isn't a Selfman. This is for Bar Distillery. That looks perfect.
Bold, right? Very bold.
Very bold. Not obnoxious. Not super loud, extremely loud. Already know. But still in a very fun way, quirky. And then you see just the colors as well. It's very personal. So we will actually screen grab this. And
just on that as well. Do you ever find Esther, with colors, because it's so subjective, right? And I guess it depends on the mood you're in and the vibe for the project. But you can get those colors that sometimes it might look like they would clash, but then when you put them, it's okay to have colors that clash. Do you know what I mean? As long as you got text and it's legible.
I remember, just when I was younger, to never mix red and pink, pink and orange. And now suddenly the last year and a half, we've seen, those color clashes just coming through in so many amazing ways. I usually just go, there are rules, but also rules are made to be broken. If you can do it in the perfect way, let's go for it.
I love that.
We are going to look at some more.
Do it. And so again, even more people coming in. So I was gonna say we've got Isabel from Canada. Actually, Izzy was on one of our Adobe Lives previously, so definitely check her out. We've got Francesco from Brazil, Adan from Pakistan, and Matt from Brazil again. So a massive hello and warm welcome to you guys for joining us on Adobe Live.
This is perfect. Here we go. Already now, this is perfect. Perhaps almost a bit too sophisticated, but I'm very inspired by just looking at other brands. You're seeing the shapes. It's Camille, and then you have just the geometric shape, half circle. It does the job. It doesn't have to be overthinking all the time.
It's got quite a soft color as well, that kind of gradient, right?
Very soft,
orange.
very soft.
Really nice.
I'm not entirely sure this is right for us, but it's just a very great project. So I might have actually been a bit cheeky and done some inspiration look before. So I will quickly just, because as designers, we have a tendency to get lost in inspiration, and I didn't want that happening today. So I'm going to pull this in and we'll have a look at what other bits I've been looking at today.
And just on that topic, I mean, for inspiration, because again, we've got obviously, a really good crowd in the audience today. Everyone probably has their own ways of how to get inspiration and platforms. Where do you kind of go to? Where's your go-to source for inspiration?
So my go-to, I think it kind of depends on what I'm doing. A lot of my inspiration is actually based around materials rather than existing brands. So, but my personal favorite is Behance, because, you have the professional work and also the student works all in one. I have this little folder though, that I call, my secret little stash. It's
brilliant.
This is probably my favorite. It's fonts in use, and this is predominantly for typefaces. However, what they do is, they have brands, they have editorial work from, way back and from right now. And, it's just, I can scroll this for hours and get inspiration. And then it's exactly what I need. And then even better for me, you have the typefaces down below if that's the typeface you really want to use. Then, of course, the Pinterest Dribble, the die line is for packaging, even though I rarely do packaging, but inspiration can strike anywhere. And then, just Free Fonts Awards. So this is my go-to when it comes to free fonts for personal projects and me just playing around, because most of them, has a lot of character, which, compared to Adobe fonts, which, is what I use almost every day. Here it's more expressive in a way, even though it can definitely be found on Adobe fonts. So I
was gonna say, it's good to, because you mentioned some really cool, almost hidden gems of blogs for those, especially in the chat, if they're quite curious about where do I kind of go to, especially for those who are just maybe starting out in the industry. It's oh my gosh, I'm on the internet, where do I kind of go? So you put some really cool places. I can see in the chat as well, Voodoo 3D Valve's putting their fonts in use, what you just suggested, and obviously Adobe fonts as well. I mean, there's a lot of cool fonts in there, so get a browser.
The best with Adobe fonts, you just click activate and it goes straight to your Photoshop or Illustrator. And then inspiration grid is probably the last one. This is when I'm looking more at materials and photography and paintings, even like the colors in this one is wicked.
This looks awesome. I've never seen this before. That's great.
No, so this, I found it like 6 years ago or something.
I'm so old school, I'm dated.
Yeah, no, but that's the thing. When I found a good source, I stick to it. Yeah. Just, you know, seeing stuff I wouldn't see on my own Instagram feed.
I get that.
So yeah, but then, so I've done the work. I've looked all over Pinterest, Behance, and everywhere for personal brands. And these are actually the ones I found for Morgan Wilson quite interesting. So, you know, we have the playful here, especially, I think this might be my favorite. There's something where playful, where you play around with type, with colors. But if we want to, you know, strip it back a bit, you can do it like this as well. I can, you know, imagine the W and the M working together, creating something like this.
I love that.
Shapes, stickers, as we spoke about earlier, is a way to make these more colorful, and just different ways of using, you know, a lockup for wordmark.
I love that, actually. Again, that's quite, again, for those who are just starting out, there's so many ways you can do typography, right? And we can play around with it, we can warp it, we can, again, using all these, you know, Adobe tools. But like when you're seeing, especially that one you've got there in the middle, with the silver sort of going in a square, that's quite a cool way of how you would like engage, like almost like a lockup with like the font and then the imagery. So yeah, I'm definitely down for that sort of design.
And you know, I think that is what's so fascinating for me. You know, suddenly it goes from being a word mark to a brand asset, and you know, just a frame, and then being a bit playful with type. This is really nice as well. And then looking at icons. So my own personal style, as you might have seen, is very, very stripped back. So I'm always attracted to, you know, stuff like this. Even here, we have more personality in the type, and you know, the minimalistic lifestyle. I'm Swedish, so you know, it's in my blood to love that.
Less
stuff.
is more. I love. That's not a bad thing to like. To be fair, it's all good.
Yeah. So yeah, we have the inspiration. I know which bits and bobs I really like. That also kind of goes hand in hand with the inspiration and the ideas I had from the beginning. So I'd say let's get into it.
Definitely. So, and I guess, I was going to, sorry, no, I interrupted you. Apologies.
No, go ahead. I was
going to say, again, you know, for those who obviously are in the chat, you know, put in the questions, obviously, for Esther, because while she's designing, you know, any sort of thing that's related to branding and even typeface or colors, and I'm sure Esther would love to answer them. So, you know, get those questions in the chat and I will forward them directly to Esther. Esther, the floor is yours. Sorry for interrupting.
God, no worries. So how I usually start, this looks quite messy, but I start off by checking which typefaces I have myself already. I wouldn't say I'm, you know, priding myself with having a big collection of typefaces. What I usually do is just, do I have anything that could work for what we actually have in plan today? Not that one, the one I had previously. So I'm currently looking, you know, just the decorative typefaces, something more with a personality. Brothers look quite nice if it looks in all caps. Don't know how much I like the sharp edges though, because obviously, you know, the sharpness of it strips away from that, you know, playfulness. This looks very hipster and is a very nice typeface.
It feels like you could be like on a branding route, like a beer bottle or some sort of like, I don't know,
I think that's
packaging in East London, right?
Yeah, packaging East London. It's the East London Brewery. I'm not too sure. It's actually right for Morgan though. So we are going to continue and see what else we can find. We are actually also going to do a lower contrast with sans serif. Just, you know, thinking of that condensed look, almost impact, you know, not screaming, but it's a statement. Them being here and getting a brand, you know, talking to whoever is listening.
How do you feel about like as well justifying as well? Like I get to that moment when I'm designing, especially when it's like a subheading. So when you kind of justify text and give that sort of spacing between the text, which kind of gives it a whole different look and feel, right?
It does. And, you know, even going, you know, I'm still trying to learn as good as possible tracking and the kerning, but also, just going from all caps to, let's see, to, lower and switching between and seeing how that changes the tonality of it. But I usually prefer everything a bit tighter, even though I know that affects legibility and all that.
It's breaking the rules again, isn't it, Richie? You mentioned before.
It is, and I think that's the main takeaway from this. I like breaking rules.
Do you know what? I think as well, like, it's the idea of just having fun and experimenting, right? As well.
Yeah, definitely. I know there's an amazing typeface that I have in mind called Thunder. So this is typeface I found a couple of days ago. So it's a free typeface on awards, and it's, it's playful, it's here, and just also what looks quite fun. So either you can have it in all caps, but it can look quite screamy almost. So
we've got a lovely comment, actually, just a quick one to sort of flag to you as well. So someone called Mika Helger has said, Esther, we're your biggest fan. Do you know? Mika?
Yeah, Mika is, I'm Mika's biggest fan. So she is/was my creative partner throughout university. She is the second half of our creative duo, Helga and Wikström.
Okay, amazing. So you've already got like your posse in the group. So I love that.
They are here and they are supporting me.
Amazing.
What I just saw right now, we are gonna go ahead and remove them for the moment. What I saw right now, when you do Morgan and Wilson on 2 rows, you get a very nice shape going here.
Yeah, so the way the G is sort of nice.
And I don't know how close I'm willing to go, but and just, the shapes here, the contrast between this bit and this bit, that looks quite nice, actually.
Do you ever find, like, when you do, it's quite cool when you have especially like words on 2 lines where if it falls in just the right place, you can actually make that, say for example, it's that G and that kind of kerns into the bottom line, that could actually make like a J, depending on the wording, of course. But and I mean, it's very rare that happens, but when you find it, when it happens, it's like, oh man, it's like a little win in a way when it happens.
They are the best. And also for the last year and a half, I've had the biggest crush on ligatures as well. Finding these sans serifs with amazing ligatures, like double O's. It's just something in my design heart that, pumps for that.
It just relates. It just vibes. I get that entirely. We've got a lovely comment as well. So Isabel said as well, breaking the rules makes things interesting. So totally agree that front.
Yeah, no, and you're seeing what would happen if we do the eye. You can, a lot of letters have the same shape. What would happen if you flip them, like I've done in my own branding? However, what you do keep in mind is, just looking the heights of everything. Suddenly we are working with a couple of different heights. So when you're breaking the rules, it's nice to just go in and see that everything actually lines up. So suddenly, already here, we have something that is very loud and looks quite fun. And you have a little symbol going almost in the will.
It almost works in like as well. I hope we're getting the right, but iconography, where you can say, for example, if the eye was like 2 eyes side by side, depending on obviously what the brand needs, and it could be people, or do you know what I mean? Like you start to use imagery, slowly incorporating it, which is quite cool. You can't see a lot on branding.
Yeah, and I think what I like is when you get a logo that actually allows for, elements to be born out of it, and, them becoming brand assets used throughout the entire branding. So
on that topic of logo, have you got like a favorite logo, Esther? Like in terms of like branding that you like? Yes.
Oh, that is a hard question. Do I have? I like logos with secret meanings. I'm gonna go with the very safe answer of saying FedEx and Amazon. Amazon logo. At the moment, at least for me, it looks a bit dated. However, the idea behind it, with the smile and the arrow to the A to Z, it says. It has a story behind it, I love that. Yeah. Logos with small Easter eggs in them. There's also a museum, not speaking about Easter eggs, but in Sweden, for Fotografiska, the Photographic Museum of Stockholm, I think, where they've just taken the word like a monogram and multiplied it. So, you know, it's a big circle. And yeah, no, it's wicked. But I'd have to say FedEx, just because of the simplicity of it.
I love that. That's a strong one. As I guess, I mean, for myself as well. I mean, I really like Innocent Smoothie as a branding, like in terms of the. I don't know if that, for those of you in the chat, if you're probably what on earth is Innocent Smoothie? If it's, I mean, I hope it's global, but it's a sort of smoothie company brand, you know, on lifestyle. But their branding is very quite light-hearted, I guess, in the approach. It has almost like a quite hand-drawn feel with the style, but it can be translated across loads of different things. So there's a lot of stuff on it to brand. And again, for those in the chat, you know, any brands or logos that you think that are really cool, that has like a different meaning or resonates well with you, put it in the chat. We would love to kind of hear it on the behalf, and I can share them with Esther while she's designing branding.
Yeah. So what I've actually just decided, I had a quick thinking which one I like the most of these two. Well, this is quite fun. It is a bit harder to read, and it looks a bit, you know, heavy on this side, whereas here it's, you know, a bit too airy almost. So I will keep it, but I've decided to explore this one more. And then, so Morgan Wilson, looking from far away, it's a bit hard to read, and, you know, from this, if it's going to be that small on any type of surface. So we're also going to explore a little monogram of some sort, or, you know, just a shorter word mark that can be used for social media, just seeing really different ways to say the same message. So this would be a second logo, really, used more on social media. And already now we can see, because of the shape of the letters, we can almost, I might be a bit fun with this one. We shall see.
Are you breaking the rules again, Esther? Are you?
I wouldn't say breaking the rules. I would rather say, see if I can make an asset out of this.
Nice.
So depending on how much we want the little thing to smile. So because obviously Morgan is quite a playful person with a lot of personality. And, you know, I don't necessarily believe in showing a photograph of yourself in a portfolio. So why won't it? Oh, it's because of
that's interesting as well. When you mentioned like with portfolios as well, that's quite, again, for those in the chat, we have a lot of people, you know, from ranging across all spectrums and ages, and especially those in the industry. When you mentioned portfolios, so kind of going back just a bit about yourself as a designer as well, as to like, for those of, you know, who are in the chat about portfolios, and like, do you have any tips about that? Because again, that's for, especially for graduates, you just graduated recently. Any advice you can give on that front? I'd
say keep it as minimal as possible with, you know, text and images. It's now when I've been out a little bit and also seen other people's portfolio, it's so easy to overthink, just like it's so easy to overthink with your own personal identity. Keep it minimal and say what you want to say. I know a lot of people, like, you know, almost that punk look of text everywhere and not graded, but then also that makes it hard for whoever you wants to hire you to actually read and see through it. So I think the main thing is treat it seriously, but also don't, you know, get anxiety if it doesn't look what you want, because by the end of the day, you can change it whenever, you know, you get a new personal identity. It's a work that never ends, but try to keep it simple, because then it will also be easy to update in the future.
That's a very good point. That's a very good gem there. We've actually got as well, like, your fans all coming through today, thick and far. So Sam said, Esther, it was great to work with you at Ravensbourne Uni. You were always killing it. So yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, no, he was in my class. He is absolutely killing it himself. His Instagram is wickedly amazing. Thank you so much, Sam. I'm happy you tuned in. So what we're going to do, so actually, it looks really fun. I can see this almost turning into a sticker. However, if we, you know, zoom in with the typeface, we see that you have some different, you know, widths going on within. So we are quickly just going to take a look and see if I can make this bit a tiny bit thinner.
And just on the obviously on the program, so again, I mean, you're using Illustrator today. Is that kind of in terms of Adobe programs, do you use any other program, or is Illustrator the one that you feel the most comfortable with as a designer? Like, is there any, what's your kind of your go-to?
I'm very practical when it comes to what I use. So whenever I'm doing branding projects and I'm only, doing anything with type or, doing a logo, I always go with Illustrator. It's just because of the vector graphic of it. Or, I think I, like most designers, started with Photoshop. I started, I got a CD of it back in the day and I turned myself into a zombie. So now every time I have to, change colors or do any type of photo manipulation, I go straight into Photoshop. But also, I do InDesign, which we're going to touch upon tomorrow for the next live stream. And I also gotten into Adobe Aero, one of the latest softwares for the VR.
Amazing.
Yeah, no. So I've actually have 2 projects where I've played around with it.
That is awesome. And again, I was going to say, for those in the chat as well, if you're using Adobe for the first time, there's so much like programs, tools, softwares that you can be playing around with. So it's definitely there at your disposal to have fun and to explore with. So yeah, definitely get creative on that front.
We are gonna see here if this suddenly. You actually have a little smiley face. And I know a lot of designers would be, this is unprofessional, but we also like Morgan. She's new, she's a junior, and she loves to be personal. And
Morgan likes to have fun. It's all good.
Morgan likes to have fun and isn't afraid to show it. And if we are looking at 3 of my favorite ones, it doesn't look all too far off from, being in the same category in a way like this. We have some stickers with the smileys going. And yeah.
And I guess like even with the smile, we could do, just throwing ideas, like I guess there's different ways you can interpret a smile. My brain already started to think of like a D-like shape, with like the kind of rhombus that could be like for the chin. I'm geeking out now, but I guess there's different ways of how you could.
Easy. And I think that's what I think is so fascinating with this line. And, just looking at different things, because you can get so many ideas just from the same design, really. So let's see how that would. I'm just going to do a quick little.
And so whilst you're doing that as well, about half an hour into the stream. So again, if for those who've just going to be tuned in, obviously a massive welcome, and you're in the thick of it at the moment now with Esther and her designs, looking at a personal branding project using Illustrator, one of her favorite tools. So,
I'm very happy that everyone seems to have tuned in. And if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, and either I or Kieran will answer. Feel free to ask him questions as well.
Exactly. Because it's quite interesting, because I guess, for some of you might know this in the chat, but some of you might not. So obviously we met when I gave a talk at your uni. So I kind of had an idea about you and your process even before the live stream, which is quite nice. Yeah, no. And I think that's in a way why I was so happy to do this. Just because, doing this with a friend and someone you actually met and talked to in real life. And also, doing it with a designer you look up to is, wicked. Appreciate that. I guess it's like when you said real life as well, that's an interesting point, because I guess like during this period of pandemic and bits and bobs, everything's via screen, so it's quite nice when you can meet with another creative, have a coffee, bounce ideas, and we did that long ago. So I totally vibe as well what you're saying on that front.
I think that has probably been one of the weirdest thing coming out from our pandemic as our graduates, how to adapt to actually working in an office and meeting people and actually talking to designers in real life and just enjoying that because it's been so long for me, which I'm very, very happy about.
I love that, by the way, the little grins on the side. It's like he's had way too much pudding, but it's still like super happy. Looks great.
I think what I'm a bit skeptical, just looking at the type, is I might need to find another way to do this, because within the wordmark itself we don't have these thin lines, And it's just something I keep a lookout for. Is there something already existing within the design that I can get inspiration from?
Definitely. And I guess it would be good to know like a bit more about, your process, but also obviously you mentioned you graduated, long ago, and obviously you started a new job. So massive congrats.
I have, I just started a new job. This is my second week. So I work at an agency called JKR here in London. It's a branding agency. And so far, everyone's been absolutely fantastic. And amazing. What is quite fun is I had JKR. So I've had a list that was my 5-year plan as a designer that I wrote 3 years ago. And on that list was to work at 1 of 5 different agencies, whereas one actually was JKR. So I'm very happy to say that I've finished my 5-year plan 2 years too early.
Boom.
So for 2 years, now I am just going to relax and design even more.
That is amazing. And the massive, obviously, you made a good point before. You touched on graduates, leaving, especially in this period, current climate in the world. So, I mean, a massive congrats on that front to even secure a job. But do you have any advice? Because a lot of, again, with those in the chat, we have, a wide range of different creators and people, and some who, fully fledged designers, and some who are just starting out and just curious about the process. Have you got any advice for those maybe who are just kind of start? You mentioned obviously, simplicity, but maybe those who are trying to look for jobs in that career as grads. Do you have any opinions that you could support?
Yeah, I'd probably say first and foremost, it can feel extremely daunting to, try to get a job, and you start thinking, am I good enough? Will someone actually like my stuff? What has been super helpful for me, or what was super helpful for me? No one is ever out to get you. No one will ever point their fingers and say, oh, you're not a designer. Everyone's just so excited to meet you. And, if you manage to land an interview, you didn't just land it because they were being nice. It's because they really wanted to talk to you. So be nice to people you meet, and don't be afraid to actually go up and talk to them. Sometimes it might land you on Adobe Live, like it did for me. But also then keep in mind, I know I was quite lucky with landing the job I had, but some friends I had haven't been as lucky. If you don't get a call back, it doesn't mean you're not a designer. Then what you apply to might just not, they weren't just looking for you. What you can do in the meantime, there are amazing resources of free briefs you can do. You have the Brief Club on Instagram. They do a brief every week, and it's like a competition style. You have brief generators online, and also amazing tutorials, just, really hone in on your design skills.
I love that.
Because you might know how to talk, but you might not have what they expect you to have. Just keep on it. Your day will come, and don't give up.
And just being you made a really good point, especially just being proactive, right? In that space where it can be so, I guess, just physically mentally as well, draining when you're just trying. And obviously you touched on, you already collaborate with your creative partner in crime, who's obviously in the chat, which is another thing which is quite nice, collaborating, right? Working with other creatives.
And I think that is actually also an amazing thing to keep in mind. What you did at uni is not what you're going to do in real life. In real life, 30% of your job will actually be to collaborate with other designers, with your creative director. So the faster you learn, how to collaborate and not take things too personal, the better, the more successful it will be. Really good design isn't made on its own. It's made through collaboration. It's made through trust and conversation. So also keep that in mind. It's not necessarily about only you. It's about what you can do within the team, who you can collaborate with, and how you can collaborate with someone in a good way.
I love that. That's some serious gems you've got going. And actually, on the design you're actually making now, Richard in the chat's made quite a funny comment. Good one as well. So the logo kind of reminds me of the DJ Fatboy Slim party logo, but so far looks great. Thumbs up.
Thank you. Yeah, no. Good it's it's an amazing band, and just also in my mind, looking at Morgan Wilson once again, I know there's this Norwegian, I think they are, ice cream brand that looks very very similar as well. So what I'm doing now is figuring out, is this the route to go with emoji or asset, or is this? Because just comparing this to, first the ideas I had, something condensed all cap style. It's a display typeface. It's playful. It feels like this is really where we want to be, compared to other. We can actually take a look. It's always good to compare it to another. You can never be too sure about what you've chosen, because design is super personal. What I like might not, go home in the chat or, my creative director.
I love that.
But the thing is, it really looks good. I'm quite happy with that typeface. I'm
feeling that. I feel like, it's got that kind of elegant, clean look as well, which I really, really like. Yeah.
Okay, so now we've actually decided this is the primary logo. We have a monogram, and we have decided for this little character. So obviously, as you see, I've been designing in black and white and gray so far. It's just because as soon as, you introduce color, it can affect, how you think about a typeface. So now we're going to go into the fun bit and look at color. So for color, we have, this, it's something around, around those colors I really like. But we also found this very, very fun, rule breaking, orange.
That's my favorite.
And
love that.
Already now, like, this looks so good, but you can't read what it says from this distance. You can, legibility is super important to keep in mind when you're designing, especially if it's a personal brand. Just, because if you can't read it, how will someone seeing your portfolio be able to read it? But true. Looking what they've done here, working with their black text rather than what they've done here, suddenly it starts making sense. So we will go in, and how I usually do is I start off with just either a color. This is what, like, the swatches in Illustrator are fantastic. Like, most of them are some of my absolute favorite colors. This is very, very bright. So, loud color, colorful. And what I like to do, we are just going to continue exploring.
We've got some lovely comments again, just, feeding back. So we've got Eden, who said she's loved the iterations you've come up with so far, Esther. So
Thank you.
Very good vibes.
Oh, that is lovely.
Great. On that topic of color, actually, something that's quite an interesting. Have you ever used Adobe? It's like Adobe Cooler or Adobe Color.
Yes, I have. I am so happy. That is how I was taught color theory. So I went to high school in Sweden. So how it works in Sweden is, rather than selecting a school and then selecting subjects, when you apply to high school, you select a discipline you want to study. And I went to a school that had IT and design, and what they like, it's mostly, you have 3D design, you have motion graphics, you have graphic design, and within the graphic design course, they taught you color theory through Adobe Color. And I used to remember that is the backbone of all the color theory I ever know, because it's so visual. It allows you, let's actually, rather than me
go into it in the thick of it. Yeah.
Adobe Color. Yeah, no, sorry, I almost wrote in German instead. So this is, it's so good because, you have you have analogs, you have the monochromatic, which actually is something that I've been quite keen on recently. By having a monochromatic identity, when you are thinking about a personal brand, you want the colors of your work to shine through. So by having a monochromatic, it actually allows, whatever projects you are showing to stand out and either contrast or, just take the center where your own personal identity can step back, because, you can work with darker colors, you can work with brighter color.
This is a cool, to be fair as well, even with the work I do with freelance, sometimes I tend to give this as a reference point for clients, because rather than trying to pick, every color under the sun, when they can, especially I think it's the explore tab in the left, you can kind of type in a theme or anything you're working with, and they can just kind of find, screenshots, things that kind of, relates with them really well. And then again, you can screenshot, or you can just sort of, take the code and then apply it to your Adobe program. But yeah, this is for those again for in the chat. This is a really useful tool for color
that
design.
one was lovely. We shall see here. So yeah, just like you said, this is phenomenal. Also use the fact that you can, you know, see how it works with a photo and grab colors from a photo. If, you know, if a client ever gives you, oh, I like the color in this, rather than you handpicking yourself, you can drag it in here and, you know, get the color scheme going.
Esther, I've got to flag us in a comment. I feel like this is like an episode of This Is Your Life, but we have Johan, your old design teacher, representing with a high five.
Hello, hi John. Oh, it's so wicked. Johan commented on my LinkedIn post about this. So Johan is one of the main reasons why I'm sitting here today. So when I selected high school, me and my mom had a fight. I wasn't supposed to study graphic design. I was supposed to study I was supposed to study social studies and become a journalist or teacher. And when my mom got wind of that, we had the only fight we've yet to have to date, because she said I was going to throw away my future if I wasn't going into creativity of some sort. So she was the main reason we went to the open house at my old high school, and Johan was there, and he, you know, went through Photoshop and what we were supposed to be taught at the course. And just me and my mum walked out of there because he was, in the best possible way, the most nerdy person I've ever met. I have never seen anyone speak so fanatically almost about Photoshop.
Amazing.
And I just remember from that moment just feeling like, yeah, no, this is the school I'm supposed to be at, because they shared the same passion I did for creativity. And opening the door for me as well, realizing, oh, this is actually something you can do and work with. It's not something, you know, to post on your MySpace page or your Facebook page.
We're going back some time now for using those kind of platforms, where I guess like MySpace and
we are going, like, I was too young. I think I was 11 when I joined MySpace, and that was, you know, that was like a year before Facebook was going to get launched. So, you know, I was part of the dying users that were still standing there. Yeah.
Brilliant.
These colors, just, you know, if we look at the brand, these colors are something that I think is very, very nice. Just because, you know, you have a bit of contrast. If you look at these, it kind of similar to this, but also way, way brighter, and it's going to be a bit easier to read, while also having, you know, the monochromatic here in the middle, if that's something we still want to keep. Yeah, no, they are.
It's
got
like quite pastel-y colours, isn't it, as well? Which is quite. It's got that kind of pastel style, like.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I try to keep in mind as well, picking color, is this a trendy color combination? Because, you know, sometimes when you're designing, I've had that happening. You find a typeface. For me, it was Monarch a year ago. It was like, this is the most beautiful typeface I've ever seen. I used it for a project. It went fantastic. And then a month later, I just went into Pinterest, Behance, and saw it everywhere. So it's also because, in a way, I tend to keep in mind, just so in 2 years' time, my project won't look dated as fast as, you know, just trying to keep that. Just trying to keep it fresh for longer. And, you know, sometimes it's way out of your hands to decide whether, you know, it's going to be trendy or not.
That's, to be fair, I mean, that's why, I mean, I completely respect and like admire like typographers as a craft as well, because I've got a good friend of mine as well, Joe, who lives in Amsterdam, and again, he's a typographer, and the stuff that he does is just incredible. And I guess it's a different world from, you know, especially from my space, which is editorial, you know, within my background, but to do typography, and completely admire that skill. Yeah,
no, I think for me, typography is still something I really want to get into and know more about, because it feels like, you know, it's a fundamental part of being a designer, just understanding it. I wouldn't necessarily say you have to make your own typeface, but as long as you can speak and, you know, respect the rules, so you can break them later on, it's so good. And it also makes it easier for others to collaborate with you. You know, if I had to go give instructions, if I wanted a specific typeface for a brief, and my friend is going to make that typeface, it makes it easy if I can use, the right terms, the right language. A lot of things can get lost in translation.
Completely. I can totally agree with that.
So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to check what it will look like on a white and black background. Because when I'm building a personal brand, I usually just, trying to keep it as simple as possible. Because it's so easy I've had that happening before, where someone had looked at my portfolio and stated, "Oh, I don't like this." Why? Did I ask? And they said, "Oh, I don't like the color orange. I don't like the color purple." So how I usually do, it's so subjective but you don't want that happening, at an interview, perhaps.
Yeah. Do you know what I always find as well? It's weird. Like, do you ever find like depends on the mood of on the day? Because that could totally professionalism. I get that, but then sometimes depending on the mood and the vibe you've had, that could totally cloud your judgment. Sometimes, anyway.
Yeah. No, and I think it's so important. And even sometimes you just have a bad day, and people will say what they want to say, and you sometimes you take it too personal, even when someone else is telling you. But it's always nice to also know, okay, I have a lot of colors going, but I also use black and white for the contrast, and keeping it a bit clean. And then obviously we also have, like Sam, who was in the chat just a minute ago. Yeah. You have some designers who are visually impaired. Some are colorblind, some can't see that well. And when you're designing, it's nice just keep those in mind. Not everyone can see 100%. I'm blind as a bat without my contact lenses. Just trying to keep that in mind as well, making design accessible. We are in a day and age where a lot of designers, have a very diverse background. Just making sure that everyone can enjoy your creativity.
That's a really lovely point. I think as well, you mentioned that the keyword like accessibility as well, being able to be flexible in the work you're with, which actually leads quite nicely to give, some of you guys a bit of a reminder. Because we have a really, really, interesting and amazing event, which is Adobe Max, which is, again, has a lot of people from different backgrounds, accessibility, the way they operate. But just to give a background for those who don't know much about Adobe Max, it's an extraordinary virtual experience to find inspiration to connect with creatives from around the world. So you can check out it via max.adobe.com. You can register for free. I've got to put out there, it's definitely free. So it's all good. You can basically sit there for a few days and you can just really soak up the energy from different creatives. So 100%, get involved if you can, and obviously be inspired as well. And you can see a lot of designers, just like Esther as well, sharing their experiences and their thoughts. And, so definitely join us.
Yeah, and speaking of people talking, you are gonna talk at the Adobe Max soon, aren't you?
You've plugged it for me, Esther. It's almost like
you don't have to do. It's just because I am so excited to listen. What you're gonna talk about is so relevant and so extremely important as well. So please feel free to tell them what you're gonna talk about.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll put that. So I'm working on I'm recording something titled "Empowering Community Through Collaboration Editorial Design." So primarily it's looking through publications that I've created throughout the years, which touch on community-based projects, but also within race and design. So when you're saying, Esther, about the idea of it being relevant, very much, with the current climate of race as well, being a powerful topic. So I've worked on a few publications which touch on that. So come along if you guys can. October 26th is my talk, and you can find me under the graphic design section. But that's enough plugging from me. We're here for you. But, but there we go.
So what I'm currently doing is, just looking at contrast. We can see the contrast is all right, except when it comes to the green one here. And either we change the color, but it looks so good on the black. It looks playful. It's a very nice color scheme we have going. So then, you can set up rules. We don't use the green one on a white background. Just like, if it was a real brand and not just a personal brand. And looking at, just a little icon, how that will... Ooh, that happens.
My brain was thinking screen. Have you done screen printing before? Because I could totally see these being like a screen printed badge, or going back to that Fatboy Slim comment, like a t-shirt, smiley face t-shirts back in the day. But that would be quite cool.
Oh, that would be, yeah, no. And I think that's the nice thing. When you work on a personal brand, you get to decide what you're going to do with it. I've had friends who make totes with personal brands. There's a girl called Saffron in my course who did this amazing sticker package with, and you know, her logo was wicked neon, most of things, if I remember correctly. It's so, you are allowed to do whatever you want with your personal brand. It doesn't have to, you know, look super cool. It can just sometimes look personal. And is, you know, looking at the little icon again, we can expand upon this world, and I'm just going to make it a bit more playful, you know, how, you know, just like this. But looking back at the interest, we have someone likes coffee, then Morgan can even have coffees, you know, it's a little sticker that says coffee lover, you know, to give out. And, you know, who doesn't like coffee?
I was going to say, just, like, you know, being a creative, right?
Yeah, being a creative, we have to stay up late. So what we're going to do is type on a path tool and
interesting you mentioned about the staying up late. Obviously, so we're based in, just again for those of you who just joined in, both myself and Esther are actually based in the UK, so it's 9 o'clock over here in the evening. And again, because we have so many people, you know, from around the world, time difference, so some people could literally be waking up now to their coffee, bagel, smoothie juice, whatever you're into, watching your live whilst we're getting ready for, you know, bed soon, depending on the space that you're in right now. So a massive welcome if you are.
I do hope the people waking up and tuning in now are going to have an absolutely lovely day.
I mean, they've got a lot of colours to see, right? So I feel like the energy is already there. They have a lot of colours.
Like, if they didn't have the energy before, they do have the energy now. And we are going to look thunder. We are going to look if we are going to use thunder for the sticker as well, or if it's not time to select our secondary typeface.
We've got some lovely comments again. They're coming in thick and fast. So we've got Viola, he said, I'm digging those colours. And we've got Emmanuel saying the colours are so nice. So yeah,
thank you. I'm very. It's always nice to hear that people are liking the colours that you have picked, because it's, you know, it's so easy for you know, yourself to be like, oh, these colours are wicked, and then you show someone and it's like, no. That's great to hear. Thank you very much, everyone watching currently. Just looking at this, it is actually a bit hard to read. So we have the colors, we have our logo, and we can move these at the moment. And we have our logo colors. We are going to look at the secondary typeface, because, you know, if we do everything in Thunder, I'm just going to show to.
That's a strong name, by the way, isn't it? I love that name, like Thunder.
Love the name.
For a font. It's a statement, isn't it?
It's a very, very statement, and you know, it's for a statement typeface, so it fits very nice. But if we do everything in one type, as we see here, it is a bit hard for the eye to read where to go, and, you know, the hierarchy is just missing. It's not there, and we want to look professional, and, you know, that, you know, the fact that we can be loud yet know when to hold back. So we are going to take the little word mark and explore what else could go with it. And this is quite condensed, it's quite heavy, so I'm looking at something light, perhaps a geometric sans serif, just keeping that modernism of it, but, you know, and showing it's a relatively young designer, not, you know, the sans serif, the classic type, and digital based is what I'd say. So let's go in and look what
on that topic. Actually, we've got a really good comment actually as well. It's a two-part actually in a way. So we've got Janelle, I hope I'm saying that correctly, who said, how do you help the client properly choose the best color palette, or what's your process to choose colors after you get the brief?
So how I like to do is, obviously, first I start looking at the psychology of a color. So let's take fast food, for example. In fast food, we see a lot of reds, we see a lot of yellows, just because they have a very, you know, the red is, look at me, it grabs your, it forces you to notice the place you see the red. That's one of the reasons why Coca-Cola bottles are red. You know, it stands out amongst the rest. So I'm looking at color, you know, what color can do to help my clients stand out in their category. And then I usually go in, you know, is there a story to be found? You know, if you have a dark blue, is it a royal blue? Is it because, you know, the story of riches within the history that is going really well for them? It's a wealthy company. Or is it a purple for creativity and relaxation? This study shown that purple color actually enhances your creativity. Yeah. And you know, just what that goes. And then when you have the story and you have the psychology behind your decisions, then okay, I usually go to my clients and say, this is within the spectrum of what we're thinking. Yeah. And if they like it, then I go in and explore specific colors. Amazing question. And
that's a good one. Yeah.
What was the second part of it?
I feel like that kind of fed in. So again, it was more like your work process to choose the colors, which we kind of touched on when we looked at the coloradobe.com as well, which Voodoo's kindly put in the chat as well. So definitely check that out if that helps with the process, so you guys can see, you know, a bit of an insight into how Esther works and, you know, her kind of go-to tools to help her create. And
I think also when looking at colors, I usually start off with looking at photography and finding photography I think really works with the brand. And then just like we know what we spoke about in the other color is I just pick colors from the photography, and you know there's a reason why I like the colors in a photography. It's because of the colors. So then I work from them, and it's so much easier to show, you know, a client this photo represents what you're doing. It's the color, the composition, the subjects. And then from there, you can go back and find more photos in a similar color.
I love that. Do you ever find, like, because again, with my line of work as a freelancer, it can be quite difficult sometimes. Obviously, with clients, you need to make sure you obviously got the right color palette and so forth. But I mean, I don't know if you find this yourself, but whenever I design, especially if it's logo or branding, black and white, you kind of keep it neutral first. And then once we're happy with that aesthetic of, okay, it works well in black and white, color kind of complements it in a way where you don't want to distract so early. I mean, again, it's subjective, it's just my opinion, but I kind of put it, do you ever find that working maybe just black and white, keeping it simple and then adding colors to kind of complement what you mean, is that a good process? Or would you almost say at the beginning stage, it's different?
No, I fully agree. Most of my work starts off with being black and white. Like, as you can see in my portfolio, most of my work is for some odd reason black and white. And then I have an accent or it's a splash of color, just because it helps tell the story. For, as we saw today, I actually started pretty much the other way around, just because I knew, like, okay, we are going to use black and white. Then it's more fun to explore the playfulness of Morgan Wilson. But yeah, no, I always start, and I think when you specifically working with logos, always start in black and white, because if you start working with gradients or, you know, duotones straight away, and you suddenly realize, oh, my clients have only very bad printers, they can't print in color, you know, then suddenly your entire design is ruined because it won't print correctly. I usually try to keep in mind, what would this look like faxed in black and white?
I love that. That's
you know,
really
in a very low quality way. And if it passes that test, then we are good to go.
I love that. That's a very good point actually as well. And I guess it could almost dilute the actual design of what you're trying to get across. If you're feeling that you have to kind of throw every single color in the wheel to try and make your design come to life, maybe it's a sense of you're diluting, and actually your client, or, you know, whoever you're trying to, you know, show your work to, could get distracted by what you're really trying to get across, and they're more focused on just the colors in opposed to the logo or the branding or the final piece. So that's a really good point. We've got some really good comments as well, which kind of relates to the point. So we've had Richard, who said the colors from the photography really does set the tone for the color palette of a project. We've got Isabel, who totally agrees as well. She does the same. And then it's all good. Another question which has come through from Miles, who said, how does one practice to create designs faster? I guess maybe on the topic of like timelines and deadlines. How do you that brain part?
That is it's actually very, very fun because it's so hard. So I said in the beginning of my presentation, I used to be a competing graphic designer, or at least I think I said it. Oh. So I've competed internationally in European championships and the World Championship as a graphic designer for an organization called WorldSkills. And what that is the third or fourth largest competition in the world after the Olympics and the football finals.
That's pretty insane.
Wow. It is insane. And what that is they pretty much lock you up for 4 days, and each day you get a new brief. It's a full rebrand in 6 hours. It's when I did the World Championships, you have to do paper toys for children in third world countries, and you get a specification and brief, and off you go. And for that one, I had 4 hours. So my entire career, I've just been practicing how to, design faster. And I'd say practice with your eye first. Learn how to spot good design, because when you know the basis of good design, it will be so much easier to trust your gut instinct rather than questioning your every decision, because usually that's what takes time. Then another good recommendation is learn, the shortcuts in Illustrator. Once I had learned that, I minimized my working time with like 2 hours if I worked for 8 hours. Then obviously design will never be fast work, because you'll always find something new, as a little mistake you did. But I'd say trust your gut, or learn how to trust your gut by practicing to see good design, because it will be make it easier for you to decide what to go with, and learn the short commands in all the softwares, really.
I love that. That's a really good point. You mentioned that the shortcuts as well, especially because, obviously you guys are watching, via Adobe Live, obviously hopefully on the Behance as well, so I can feed your comments. But again, with doing stuff on Behance, there's so many, obviously, profiles and different artists and designers you can follow. And touching on what you said as well, it allows you to kind of be inspired, when you're kind of looking at other creatives, seeing their work process, and hopefully that influences you guys for, how you operate and design as well. So, and obviously thanks for joining today, because again, you're looking into Ester's world of how she creates, and that hopefully gives you guys and ladies, inspiration to kind of create your own designs. So, Esther got the gems today, so keep them coming.
Yeah. So as we can see, I've just been exploring for the last couple of minutes while asking the amazing questions. Use different typefaces and what to do. And what we're currently looking at might be this, a Franklin Gothic. It's still very condensed, or it's not geometric in that sense, but it's easy to read.
Interesting question we've got that's come through. Actually, I'm quite curious to know what I haven't processed, but I'm quite curious to know yours as well. So we've got Nicolette, who said, do you have any warming up exercise you do before you start your designing? I find I need a really long time to get into the right mind space before designing. Interesting comment.
That is a very interesting question, and I say no, just because my warming up is procrastinating until the moment I have to start designing. And I love designing. Do not get me wrong, but it's hard. I sometimes earlier in my career, I warmed up by looking at inspiration, just going through my little folder with all the inspiration I showed earlier. And that would usually put me in a good mood. Another really good thing is talking to people, asking my designer friends, what are you working on? And, get inspiration from that. Because also when you're talking, even though I don't like saying that you are competing as a designer, because you aren't, but you will get that little, kick in the bum you need to get going, because suddenly they are doing stuff and you're not, a little bit of pressure from your friends is always good. I don't know if that answered your question. I am so sorry, but that's how I get going.
No, that's good. I think as well, everyone's got their own kind of like mindset of what works for them as creators. For me personally, I work with music, so I try not to work with, say, television. I used to when I was in uni, and maybe binging on certain Netflix shows. I won't geek out too much, but I think now it's more listening to music and having like a strong playlist, and then it's like, cool, I'm in the right mindset. Let's kind of get going with work. So it'd be good to know, going for those in the chat, what do you kind of do to kind of get yourself into that right mindset for work. If you've got a deadline, are you vibing with music? Do you go for a walk? Put those comments in the chat, and I can share them directly with Ester. We can compare.
Yeah, no. I would love some new, tips and tricks of how to get me in the mood. For me, it's usually just a rush of frenzy, like that. But then also for me, it comes quite natural, just because the days I'm not designing, it affects my mental health. I love designing so much that if I spend a day not designing, I just don't feel as good. So, some people work out. I like to design.
It's like therapeutic,
and work
right?
out. Yeah, it's therapeutic, and just being creative in that sense.
I tried to I don't know if you find it as well. Like, I mean, I love designing and using the Adobe tools, and I always find sometimes just pen to paper, just drawing. I kind of maybe don't do that as much. Maybe I did it at uni, but I guess it's always nice to kind of take a step back and just do some drawings as well before maybe scamp designs out, and then you take them onto Adobe programs and start going crazy.
Yeah, and during the first lockdown here in the UK, so last year, I started drawing on my iPad, and it was so therapeutic, and I've missed it because when you're young, that's how you start out. Before you have your own computer, at least in my case, is getting back to those roots was so therapeutic and really helped me get through the first lockdown.
I totally get that. There's a lot of comments relating to, I think music seems to be probably the go-to comments that everyone's saying music. And we got Eden, he said, music too. I'm an illustrator too, so I do a lot of sketching to music. And I listen to, that's a good one. From Potato, I love that name. From Potato, who said, I listen to Adobe Live whilst I design. So there we go. It's not just music. It's
what type, do you know, like, what type of music is it that people are listening to? I would love to know. Is it, upbeat? Is it indie? I usually go for, upbeat myself. For me, Lil Nas X Montero, his latest album, that has kept me going the entire day. I would love to get some, more inspiration if anyone has it.
Let's share that. Definitely get sharing. Like, what is your go-to, genre, or even particular musician? Like, just what gets you in that vibe when you're in that creative flow? I mean, I'm more instrumental. I guess it depends on what project. If I'm in those ones where you got like a deadline within the next hour, you need to really fully fledged. My brain's kind of, in that mindset of like bonobo, kind of indie. I guess kind of like I'll say deep house kind of music as well, where you're kind of like locked in. Like, I guess it's very repetitive. It's like almost like trance music. But you have that. You have different types of vibes depending on what it is. The comments are quite cool. We've got Richard who said, I can definitely relate to Richard's vibe actually. He's put down deep house, lofi, and some jazz, which is that's my cup of tea as well.
Love lo-fi. Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. Sam said,
is it lofi or lo-fi? I actually don't know.
I don't know. Potato. I actually no one says potato. I actually don't know. I say lofi. What do you say? Do you say lofi?
I say lo-fi, but it's just I think it's because it sounds like sci-fi. So
that makes a logical sense, to be fair.
Yeah.
I've been living a lie.
But also, I can be completely wrong. It's I told you earlier that it was just last week I learned how to say cha properly.
Yes.
I've always mispronounced it, so don't trust me in anything I say. I'm actually gonna reach out to the chat now because I am looking at a couple of different typefaces, and seeing them. I'm having quite a hard time deciding which one I like the most. So we have
put it to a vote if you want.
Yeah, let's do a little vote. What people are enjoying the most. So we have this one. Franklin Gothic, Graphic, and Proxima Nova. So just what are people feeling? 1, 2, or 3. 1, 2, or 3. I will let's see if, and then just do some placeholder text and make that even smaller. You see what people are feeling. It's, very, very tiny differences. But now when you see them in contrast to each other, it can still, affect the final brand.
Totally. I'm quite curious, actually, going back to your design process as well, like, you as a creative, Esther, as well. do you for creative blocks when you have creative? I mean, we all have them. What do you?
Yeah.
And maybe it's touching on the music elements, but what is it that you kind of find where you're in a project, you're in the thick of it? Maybe even say your D&AD stuff that you were doing. Was there any point in that moment where you're like, okay, my brain is a little bit fried? What do you kind of use to kind of get over that hurdle in terms of?
I'd say that entire project was because the project was. So what I did is I did a watch for. We reimagined the watch face of a wristwatch and designed it after the internal clock of a procrastinator, and the entire project was about procrastination. That it felt like that was all I did. I had the worst creative block throughout the entire February, and how I get out of the mind space is actually stepping away from the computer and reading books, talking to people, talking specifically, is sharing that I'm in a creative block. What are you up to? Please inspire me. Find inspiration elsewhere. And then the first thing I do when I get back to the computer is I just open up InDesign and design whatever I feel, try to explore a new style, play around with a typeface I haven't played with earlier, just to find inspiration elsewhere. And, when I'm in the mind space of, okay, this is actually quite fun. I might actually be a designer, even though I've had the worst creative block I've ever had. Then I get back to the brief and project I'm working on, which usually helps me, stepping away, because like creative block is, at least for me, just me putting too much pressure on myself to design something that looks good in my mind, but actually doesn't work in real life.
I get that. I totally get it. I can relate to that. I guess it's just taking a break from almost tunnel vision a little bit, where you're just, it's so easy to, to be your own worst critic in a way, where you just, forever seeing what you've just, I guess, and you mentioned a really good point going back in our previous previous few minutes ago when we were talking, is that, sharing work with, with other creatives and, with friends, and just to get their opinions, rather than just kind of, staying in your own kind of lane and seeing it from another perspective.
Let's
We've got some, the votes are coming through. Yeah, there's a lot of, it's quite mixed actually. I see a lot of 2s and 3s.
Very nice to hear.
Yeah.
Because I am leaning, as you might see, also towards 2s and 3s. We might actually go with.
I love Edna's comment.
What did Edna say?
On the topic of on the 2 and 3 actually options. So her first comment said she likes option 3 because the density of the type feels right for the header and the body. But then she said, but I also like 2 as well for the contrast. And in brackets, sorry, I see a lot of good things, a lot of sides to things, which is good. I like that.
No, and Edna, you are spot on, because that is actually what I'm feeling myself. It's so hard, especially like then. I like the A's. You see the contrast within the letter. That is lovely. Whereas this, it doesn't have. Well, the T's are quite nice. This is more stripped back, but what we will do is, if we go in and look here. No, you know what? We are actually going to do? We are going to go with number 3, and people are free to say if they think I made the wrong choice in the chat.
The majority, I don't want to burst the bubble. I mean, go with what obviously the majority have said. We've got a little bit of round up. So 8 people have voted for 2 and 5 have voted for 3. But they are still coming in thick and fast. So
they are, and I think the reason why I might be going with this one is just because of the personality of it. It has a bigger personality, while we actually can write longer pieces of text without it looking too messy. But at the same time, this is also very nice. No, you know what? No, I am gonna trust the creativity. I was speaking about collaboration. I am actually going to go with what the majority, the 8 people said we are going to go with.
Nice. We've do you ever justify text as well? Like, I guess when you've got like long, bodies with copy, if you're using, say, InDesign for like column grids and whatnot. But I mean, I tend to love when I start justifying the text. So it kind of, it stretches and reaches to the very edge. Yeah. Do you ever do that much, or do you, when you're doing, say, editorial pieces?
Yeah. So the thing is, I love the look of it. I really do. I think I've been burnt by justifying text so many times by so many creative directors have said like, oh, but it makes it illegible. You can't read it. It doesn't look as nice. However, it looks amazing. I love doing it. And I think I've been a bit afraid recently to justify it. Even just centering it, because suddenly it's the lines look different. If you don't have the perfect line, then going downwards in a triangle, it will be harder for the eye to read.
Do you know what's really funny on that? To literally today, I kid you not, I was working on a project which was editorial based, and you justify it, and it's like, okay, everything's looking great, and you have that one line or one word which is so long, and you try and soft return it, or you try and do things just to try and get it online. It just doesn't want to play ball. So it's that classic case of you have to kind of judge it, right? Case by case. And that is both the good thing and the bad thing about being a designer. It will be a lot of problems all the time, and a lot of decisions to make. Is indeed.
And I'd say also, to add on the question earlier, how to speed up your process, train yourself to make decisions fast. That is a very good thing, rather, always weighing one alternative to another. Stick with one, because, if worst comes to worst, we can just go back and change it later on when we realize it doesn't work at all.
I like that. That's a very good point. And I mean, that's a really good point, especially, I guess, with confidence as well. The more you work on projects, the more you say work, whether it's freelance or whether it's full-time employment, you start to work with creatives, you start to know yourself as a designer and what you're capable of doing. So that, that's a really good point as well. And I guess the more confident you have in your work, the quicker you can probably work, because you think, okay, cool, well, I know what I can do in this space of time. And then you kind of marry it up that way. So that's a really good point.
Good point. So what I'm doing now is, I realized why we selected the secondary typeface is we are just looking at another sticker and see if that is something we want to go with, because I thought the first sticker, if we're going to do, a brand identity that is going to be quite playful, it feels like we need at least 2-3 stickers, and we are going to select. And already now, compared to, I'll see if I still have that old little mark.
On that topic of stickers, I'm going to geek out a bit. I mean, I haven't had a sticker in years. I don't think I even have any stickers. Do you have? Do you collect stickers, or do you I don't know?
That's the thing. When I was younger, I used to, or not stickers, but do you remember these old, not like bookmarks? It looks like stickers, but it's not sticky. I used to collect them. I had like multiple heavy books just filled with them. But I don't think I've received a sticker in at least 2-3 years. And I love getting stickers. And I just got my new work computer, Apple. And I was so excited because I thought there was going to be, the little Apple sticker coming with it. But no, not at all. I sadly enough don't collect.
Do you know what? I feel like with what you're designing, and the designs have gone down very well in our chat, I feel like if you were to sell these, people would 100% buy them.
If people want to buy them, I will listen and start selling. Multiple income sources. A designer can never have too many.
Business idea live on Adobe Live. I love that.
Live on Adobe Live. Yeah, I don't even have to do a workshop with it. I am gonna double check and see that I spelled everything right, because I found a little spelling mistake. Yeah, see. And this is just what I said earlier in the live stream, that we will definitely see some small errors, and I'm just happy that I spotted it now and not later when we are wrapping up.
I mean, that's just the human side of it as well, right? It's one of those ones where, as we're creators, it's very easy to want to show off our shiny best bits of what we do as designers, and I'm guilty of it. We all do it, but actually, we will every now and again, which is why you have things in place like copywriters, proofreaders. I completely admire those people who work in that sector of copy checking and proofreading, because my brain, it doesn't work in that realm. But I take my hands off to those who do. So
and I think that's what I think is so lovely, and one of the most important things to remember when you're stepping out in industry. be nice to everyone you meet because you will need them. Like I would never have been able to work on the clients I'm currently working on in my job if it wasn't for the copywriters, if it wasn't for the account managers. Like the work they do, it is magic, and I would never be able to do it myself. And I'm so happy that they are doing it for me. Even if someone isn't a designer, never assume you're better than them, because everyone has something that you can learn from.
Completely.
And just listen. I fully agree with you.
That's an awesome point. I think we've had a few Adobe Lives in the past, and we've kind of touched on this subject, but I guess as well, it's the idea of, say you're working in a full-time employment, it's, with different departments and sections, have an understanding of how other people work in that department. So like, say, for example, you're a copywriter working alongside a designer, understanding things don't work super quick. Obviously, it's kind of knowing their process a bit in order for you to do your best work as well. That's why it's collaborative, right? So that you have an understanding, in a sense of respect as well, isn't it? I think that kind of feeds into it, of how other people operate. So,
and it's like, if you don't care about the work they're doing, why would they care about the work you're doing and want to help you out? Communication goes both ways.
Completely. The comments again, just feeding them back to you because it's all positive. So we've had Isabel, who said she's got a jet, but she's got to leave. But actually, the colors are great. So far, looks amazing. So big, well done. Nuno, who said, that's a really good name. I love that name. Love the green shape. Very, very playful.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I think the only I just realized, because I really like that shape with the green is amazing, but also in a way it looks like cartoon snot. Just,
I love that. Yeah. I wasn't expecting that.
However, we are actually gonna keep it just because it looks very, very pretty, and it
hilarious.
works so well with the rest. However, I am thinking if we should remove that one, just because it didn't really make any sense, and I don't want to clutter everything too much. So now, what we'll actually do is just go down here and see, because now we have color, now we have typeface. We are going to see what it looks like when it all comes together.
Oh.
And then we can leave that one white. So we have our little word mark. And now when that's done, we are just going to outline. Always make sure to outline so you don't, when you've decided it's final, don't outline too fast if you find a spelling mistake.
Oh, I've done that before, and that is a horrible situation. I mean, I can say it now, being a freelancer and out of the industry for quite a while, but I made a mistake as a junior, a long time ago at an ad agency, where I outlined. I didn't commit. There were spelling mistakes, and like you said, once you outline, you've committed, right? You've which is why you put it on the pasteboard, just to play it safe and just have things, just for when you need to revert back. So food for thought.
And now let's see. Love this. From tiny
town.
Not London. UK. Oh.
And just to flag again, for some of you might have just joined, quite late into the stream. Obviously, a massive welcome, and thank you for joining us first of all. And just so you know, we're in the process now. I guess got about say 25 minutes or so left. We're in the thick right now of Esther's design process. And Esther's a designer, communications designer, I should say, from London, working on a personal branding project using Illustrator to create some awesome checks.
Yeah. Sorry. So it's just all the inspiration, the word mark, just exploring what the brand could look like. And we are just, we're at the fun bit where we're just puzzling everything together and see the final result. So obviously this is not really our business card. It's just, so what I usually do when I'm designing is just creating some type of layout, whether that is, a web page or just a space where you can see the brand come to life more. Just as a final touch to see if you're going to do any final changes before you present for clients. And since this is a personal brand, before you actually get to creating your portfolio.
Do you ever use much Lauren? I mean, it depends on the content if it's being, supplied. Lauren Epsom. I feel like that's usually designers' friends when it comes to
and you are actually. Thank you for reminding me that exists. I just got a bit carried away with the personality of Morgan Wilson.
I want to meet Morgan Wilson. She sounds amazing. I feel like we go for smoothies together. She sounds like pretty awesome.
What are people in the chat currently thinking about the design? When it starts coming together, do they have any hesitations that this green should be less snotty green, or
Pantone snot? I guess there's actually there's a lot of positive comments, to be fair, coming through. I mean, Sam's made a good point. You said that so playful copy. I like it. Fits well with the smiley face. And we've got where is it now? Rob's also said as well. Smile looks. Now, if you could make the smile a partial coffee stain, goes back to lurking. Not sure what that means, but I guess it's like the idea of just what you're interpreting, how things are looking. But I mean, all the comments are all positive. Like they're all, and I think it's that element of playfulness has kind of come out with a lot of the comments I can see. Everyone's kind of picked up that and the colors, and it's all positive energy. And actually, very good point for those. Say if you're viewing on YouTube, pop over into Behance, because I'm actually reading those comments via Behance. So pop into there if you can, and then I can obviously read your comments directly and share them with Esther while she's designing.
Even just on Behance, there are so many other live streamers coming up, either tomorrow or that have been earlier today. So if you have a couple of hours now in the morning or in the midday or in the night, wherever in the world you are, it's not only I who's social and showing my process.
Exactly. It doesn't shut up shop even when me and Esther are gone, where it's very much we're forever going, whilst even like Esther said, like whilst we're still, whilst we're gone, other designers are up next and you can see their process. And that's a really good point. So and obviously we're going to talk about maybe towards a few minutes towards the end about we working on tomorrow, which is good. So this is obviously a part of a 2-day live stream, which we'll go into a bit more depth, towards the latter part. But definitely tune in for that as well, because it's all been positive so far. I mean, like I said, all good positive energy, positive vibes, and I'm enjoying as well seeing how you're operating, Esther. Like it's cool to get a lovely view into like your design process. Is awesome.
So this being stickers, it's place them wherever you want, really. That's very picking up that old school sticker vibe, when you're layering. It feels like I've missed working with a color. It might be.
Could you zoom in a little bit as well? We can marvel that way. There we go. We can marvel at the designs in big.
And we are gonna put. So this is the only thing because as we see, this is very ungridded. I've just gridded with my eye. I know that's a big no-no in some designers' eyes, but if you can grid something visually with just your eye, do it. I say you don't have to be afraid of, having everything strict, because also in a way it can limit your creativity. But, for example, all the text here, as we saw right now, that is quite nice if it's actually all aligned. Like so. That's
a really good point. I mean, you mentioned as well, like with alignment, because again, you have other Adobe programs like InDesign, for example, where if you're working, say, predominantly with type, and if it's like a magazine or poster, you might use a bit of InDesign perhaps, because obviously it's a print program, publishing program, so you can, use grids on that format. But obviously what you're doing now with Illustrator, it's really cool because it allows you to obviously vector file, you can stretch, you can move things around, and it feels more fun, if any. I mean, everyone's got their own favorite program, but I've got a soft spot for Illustrator, if I'm honest. It feels like fun, right?
Yeah, and I remember in the beginning, if you are taught another software to begin with, it's frightening the first time you step into Illustrator and you're working with a pen tool and vector rather than pixels. But as soon as you actually get into it, it just makes everything so much easier. Just exporting in scale and being able to scale anything up and down multiple times without losing the quality. Eye opener for a young designer. It is
massively. And again, you made a good point. It can feel a little bit daunting, especially if you're just starting out. For those in the chat, if it's you know, like we said, we've got different levels who view Adobe Live, which is fantastic. And, you know, some who could be, you know, senior creatives, or even just those who are just curious about design. Like when you're using programs, don't not, you know, try not to get too, you know, freaked out or bombarded. That's why we have Adobe Live, you know, to kind of showcase, you know, tutorials and showcase, you know, how different creators work. And again, you know, the more you watch, you know, Adobe Live and see how other creators work, the more you think, okay, cool. Well, I feel confident enough to, you know, jump on the programs and have fun, which is obviously a very key thing. You got to have fun with what you do as designers. Maybe a bit biased, but yeah, you got to have fun, right?
Yeah, and I just want to flag to people in the chat who might have seen, I just realized another lovely little mistake. When you're working with lines, make sure to always expand them. So when you're scaling them up and down, they stay, you know, they have to stay in relevance. I totally. Just spotted, thankfully I haven't scaled them all too much, so it's not as visible, but you know, a nice reminder for people watching and people mimicking what I'm doing. Just, you know,
I thought I was part of the process though. I thought you were playing it cool and it just happened to be.
But but that's the thing. No, I am playing it cool because I like to break the rules. But it's just a nice little reminder for people who usually don't break the rules.
Exactly. And we've got a lovely comment as well from Marie who said, so she's got wow emoji, heart eyes, looks very different, looks really nice and different, but in the best way possible.
Thank you. That is lovely to hear. And was actually quite fun now looking at, I didn't know this was going to look like this when I started. But awesome. Was quite fun is it's relatively stripped back, is, you know, if we are going to look at the personality of Morgan. You know, once you get hired by an agency, you know, it's playful, social, loud, yet knows when to hold back. Just looking at it, this is loud, it dares to take some space, but thanks to, you know, the stripped back colors, rather, you know, having the entire color like this, it gives that edge of professionalism, if I dare to say it, as a junior designer at an agency. Okay. I can say, I can use the big words.
I mean, you won awards, so when you win awards, I feel like you can.
That's the thing. It still feels surreal for me. So I've the last year I've won one award, I've gotten 2 achievements and been showcased in an exhibition, which, you know, I am so happy about, but it still also feels so surreal because you always think you have to wait till you're like 30 for that to start happening to you.
I love when you said 30. It's like, oh, I mean, I'm 30.
I know, like, don't take it personal. Yeah, it's, you know, I'm 23. Everything over like 25 is like, whoa.
Yeah.
But like, you know,
that's a good point.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, you made a because it's interesting. Like, I guess sometimes you always feel like age very much depends on the skill set, but not necessarily. I always find, like, especially when I give talks at unis, and you can be very much a young creative who are just, you know, ridiculously talented in that. But in that fact, you could even be on a level depending on, you know, how confident you are and, you know, how you articulate yourself and obviously how you process design. But I mean, I've worked with, you know, juniors before where I almost think, crikey, that could be, you know, midweight to even senior level. I don't know. I always find like it very much depends on the individual and that skill, in opposed to, say, age, which is just a number in that context.
And I think especially when it comes to design, that in, at least in my perspective, growing up, you always looked up to these old designers, you know, from Switzerland, or, you know, the older you were, the more you had to say. However, from my first internship, they had a very nice, you know, it wasn't about age at all. It was more about, you know, what they brought to the table. Everyone had expertise. And in the day and age where, you know, we have information freely at our hands, anyone can learn anything at any time. It's not anymore about, you know, the people went to university 40 years ago, because you can still have the same level of education. And, you know, the softwares have been updated. You have new technology coming out every day. So it's just how willing you are to get into it. And if you're willing to get into it, then I dare say, if you're willing to get into it, then you have something to say and something to contribute as well.
For sure. That's a really good point. And you mentioned about, I mean, even the idea of, you know, with age obviously comes experience, right? So I always find as well, when you're in, especially if you're in full-time employment, I mean, I'm in freelance now, but when I worked in full-time, you might find it the same with your job as well. It's like, it's a sense, obviously you work with senior creatives, senior art directors, and obviously they've got a lot of experience in this space. So even just picking their brains and just finding out about their process, like you can probably learn a lot, just based on what they've seen and done. So it works both ways, I think.
And I think that's also what I love about design, because you have people from all over the world in all different ages and interests who all like the same thing as you do, and you have one thing that connects you. We have so much to learn from every single one.
And culturally as well, right? Culturally, we're all very different, which is why Adobe Live, that is why it's we do this, and obviously it's the idea of we've got viewers from all over the world kind of tune in from different parts that we said at the very beginning. And that is the beauty of it as well. When you've got people from different backgrounds culturally, that comes into your design as well. So for me, it's seeing these designers from all over the world and viewing them on Adobe Live, it's awesome. And that's why we really encourage to definitely view, even when we finished, myself and Esther, to definitely keep on watching, because you've got designers from literally all over the world, not just London. So it's amazing in terms of you can learn a lot as well culturally. So definitely stay tuned.
So I am actually just finishing up. So what I usually like to do is just save all my assets on a separate, so you have we haven't even used the monogram, but we actually use the smile instead. So I used just to keep it tidy for myself for next time I'm opening this file. Just have everything outlined and ready to go for tomorrow when we are going to be back. And so tomorrow we are going to do a portfolio in InDesign using this brand, which I'm very excited about.
I'd say we have about maybe sort of 10 minutes or so, and then we'll probably do like a nice recap. And but actually got some more questions, because I'm really interested in sort of seeing your design process, and again the comments are all very positive, and seeing how you operate. Do you feel like, it's quite a big question, but see, design has changed perhaps quite a lot, especially even maybe during this pandemic, and people, how they interpret things visually as well. What's your kind of thoughts on like the design spectrum as a whole, especially within your sector, which is a very bold question, I know, but like just how things are, how people interpret it. Do you see there's a bit of a trend with certain designs or within certain sectors, say editorial?
I think I do. I remember for the longest time I was so against designs looking like this, white text on a black background and some splashes of color, because it was so trendy. And if it's trendy, it's not really original. I thought that for the longest time. However, now I absolutely love it, because it has a thing behind it. There's actually the story behind it and why it works, because of the high contrast. But trends in general, it's a hard question.
It is a bold one.
It is. I like them. I try to stay away. If that was, sorry, can you repeat? If you asked if I like trends or follow.
Yeah, that's quite a bold. It's probably narrow it down. So, for example, within print, for example, or editorial, say for that, that's kind of the space I kind of work in as a designer. But within your space of branding in particular, do you find that there seems to be a sense of trending with say agencies or brands within this field of branding, or kind of going against the grain, or do you kind of follow the wave? Do you sort of see how brands are operating in that space and think, there seems to be a sense of consistency or continuity with other brands, or do you think everyone's kind of being a bit outlandish with how they operate?
No, there's definitely a trend. I think, especially looking at agencies, especially coming out of lockdown, we can see how agencies are trying to adapt to this hybrid world. I'd say it's more, the trends are based on human behavior. What are human factors that drives the change in society? And to be a relevant agency, you have to adapt. Otherwise, people, they're going to look for another job. They're not going to stay. And the same with clients. If you're not giving what your clients want you to give to them, they're going to find another designer. So in a way, you have to adapt to stay relevant. But it's also nice to adapt, but find your personality. It's for, after COVID, we've seen suddenly brands care more about human-centered design. It's not necessarily about selling the story anymore. It's actually putting your money where your words is, and actively improving someone's lifestyle or their life, and you have a very bold claims of oh, we're going to change your life. That has kind of gone away, where it's like, we want to help you on your life journey. It's not as screamy, it's not as money centered. It's more about, okay, how can I actually help the human, and how can an agency help a brand help a human?
There's like an emotional connection, right, as well. I get that vibe of like it you're kind of just vibing on what you said as well. It's a lot of brands, maybe even more during this period now, or more, I guess, woke to the idea of obviously people have time to reflect because of pandemic. And even brands have had a chance to maybe reflect on themselves, as entities, where you kind of think, okay, it's not enough just to put a product out there and people just buy it, or branding, or it's more of a case of that human interaction and that human behavior. How do people think? And there's a lot of psychological elements to there's obviously design and what we do as well, which is why it's obviously being biased, but us being creatives, it's a very unique role in itself, because you have to tap into a lot of different facets of your brain of how you operate. Maybe like most jobs, but I guess in particular with creativity, it's you've got to use that part of your brain, which sometimes you didn't think really existed until you dig a bit deeper the projects that you do.
And I think I fully agree. Nothing to add, actually. You kind of said everything I wanted to say.
And like, I mean, your thoughts on like, I mean, this is kind of going a bit, still on that topic of, working with clients and like dealing with clients, like with feedback, like how do you, I guess it's different from your uni career as well to when you're in, say, the working world. Obviously you've got a new job, so I don't need to say anything that you don't want to say on a new job, but like with feedback, like, I guess, how do you interpret feedback? Or like because again, for a lot of people who are joining, or have been on Adobe Live, this evening, or depending on where you're just tuning in from, sometimes feedback could be a tricky thing for people to kind of digest. Right. How do you sort of cross that bridge?
I think it's very, very fun to ask me, because I've made such a journey when it comes to feedback. When I was 16 years old or something, 17, I was going to compete in my first competition. I couldn't handle feedback at all, because it felt like a personal attack on me as an individual. It felt like, if you say this typeface, Thunder, is the wrong thing to use, then you are saying that I'm dumb and I shouldn't be a designer. That was, in a way, my mindset. Whereas now, I love feedback. Feedback is, I want, the hard truth if someone doesn't like it. Because by the end of the day, it's someone's personal opinions that I get to hear. And it can just help my work go forward. Obviously, sometimes I don't agree. But I always try to, separate the personal and the professional opinion. I try to, keep the standard. Is this feedback coming from a professional point of view? With Thunder, is actually, loud and happy, joyful typeface? Or does it come from a personal opinion that is someone doesn't like Thunder? It's just, their ex-girlfriend liked it so much, and now they can't stand to see it.
The name was called Thunder.
That's the thing. So trying to understand where the other person is coming from, why they're giving you feedback, and just don't take feedback personal. In the sense that it's something, it is in the sense that it affects you as a private person. It will definitely affect you as a practitioner. But another really good thing is, as a designer, I reckon you must have the same. People will give you feedback even though you haven't asked for it. And they will give you feedback which they think is amazing, that you think is absolutely whack. What I like to think is, I don't take feedback from someone I wouldn't go and ask for help. And someone I wouldn't want, and someone I wouldn't want to be as a designer or as a person, because it's, especially when I was trying to get comfortable with feedback, because it's so easy to listen to everyone. You have to have some people you don't want to listen to, and when they give you feedback, it's like you can respect, and sometimes it's good feedback, but also don't take it, at face value.
I get that. I think it's a tricky one, isn't it, Dave? I guess that comes with having a bit of thicker skin, and I guess as human beings, designers, but human beings first, it's especially if you're working on something for such a long period of time, and then you get feedback which maybe necessarily isn't what you expect it to be, trying to disconnect that part of your brain which takes it emotionally and think, okay, well, actually the client or whoever's giving you feedback, just, both yourself and that individual just want to get to the best deliverable you can get to. I mean, that's how my brain can operate with clients as well. It's more of a case of, okay, obviously it's not, wasn't anticipated that kind of feedback, but if it does happen, then in a way it's, it's good because we both want to get to that final best thing that we can both create.
I think what you're saying is actually way much better advice for the creators in the chat right now, because I came from very, personal, when you're sitting and designing and someone just looks over your shoulder. However, when you're working with a client, it's good to, always listen and come to mutual understanding of where the issue is or what we should change and why we should change it. If you just have a friend over your shoulder all the time, it's completely fine to ignore it, or understand if it's professional or personal. Do not ignore your clients or your bosses or your co-workers, because they do have something to say.
I love that. It's like break the rules, but not that rule. That's where we draw the line.
Not the rule that makes you earn money and helps you pay rent.
I love that. Sam's made a really good comment as well, actually, on that topic of feedback. He said, I always got the nice that I love. I always got that's nice that I love. Keep doing it growing up. I needed feedback. Now I love it. Okay, reread that. So yeah, basically the idea of just now he's grown up. It's basically he basically takes on feedback a lot better. And that's just a good point. I mean, I guess it's just the more you do things, confidence builds in, you take on feedback, and actually challenging as well. We'll get towards the last 10 minutes now, but actually just briefly, I mean, how do you feel about as well? It's always a bit of a taboo, but sometimes challenging the client as well could be just as important.
I think that's important, because the client comes with one understanding of what they want. However, as a designer, whether you are trained or not, even if you just have a really good design understanding and understanding of society, you will come with a complete different background. And I think it's good for your own credibility as a designer to come with your own ideas and question your clients, not to the extent where they feel pressured that they have to listen to you, but just be open with your own opinions and ask them, where did this idea come from? Where did you find this inspiration? What is that based on? Because those leads, to the best conversations that are purposeful and drives the project forward.
I can totally agree. I mean, and to be fair, that's another one that does take time as well, right? When you graduate, when you're like you mentioned, old at 30, right? So I'm 30, and it gets to that point where when you're in a space where you've worked with a lot of clients and you're in a space where you feel, I guess, comfortable with challenging the client. It's just like things that takes time to come about. But when you're able to challenge a client, there's a sense of trust. I think that's always kind of a key word, where they trust in you, and vice versa. A good vibe.
A client doesn't pay you to do exactly what he says. He pays you for your expertise and for your time and for your money and for your thoughts. So, it's good to share those thoughts, even though, the client won't always agree with you. But it's good to show that, that you talk, because that also shows that you care about their project, their time, their money.
Something quite nice. You're talking about caring. You got a nice smiley face as you're placing it on that thing. But actually, sorry, go on.
No, so I'm just quickly doing the last super quick exploration. If this is the backside of a business card, even though this is perhaps too playful, but it's now when you have all the brand assets, you can see wherever it takes you, how playful you want to be or how professional.
It's nice to sort of see everything, come to life. I guess we're in that sort of stage now where sort of final 5 minutes. And again, it'd be good to do maybe a nice recap of what we've done for today, and also what we'll be working on for tomorrow, so that people can join back in as well.
Yeah. So we are here. Quick recap. So today we have, I'm Esther for the people who I actually haven't said hi to. Hi. We have been working on personal brand for our designer. So Morgan Wilson is a very happy-go-lucky person, and they wanted a playful personal brand that shows that they are social, loud, but also knows when to hold back. And their main thing is, they want to get a job. So what we have been exploring is, wordmark. We have been exploring a monogram, or some sort of secondary lockup that led us to having a smiley. And then looking at colors, the playfulness of a brand while also keeping a very stripped back and almost a bit minimalistic, but messy at the same time, if that's possible.
Nice.
That's landed somewhere here.
Nice. And then for tomorrow, just before, we sort of wrap up, what would we be sort of tuning in for tomorrow? So we can sort of
So tomorrow we will, I can't really show you any hints yet, but we will be doing a PDF portfolio that Morgan can send out to agencies they are trying to get in touch with. It's showing off, their work combined with a personal brand.
Nice. So, for all you guys, a massive thank you for joining, and definitely don't want to miss for tomorrow. So just as a little tip as well, so definitely stay tuned, because we've got the XD Daily Creative Challenge replays with Jesse Showalter coming up, followed by Draw Along with Carl T. Webster. So again, a massive thank you to our Adobe team, everyone behind the scenes, and Esther, to you as well, to showing your creative process. You've been amazing.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward for tomorrow.
Yes, and again, everyone, thank you for being in the chat as well and giving Esther some amazing questions. So yes, good day, good love, and good night, and peace and love, and hopefully see you tomorrow for day 2.
Yeah. Bye.